everyone. So I was asked what my process was in making this poster for World Wildlife Day, um, and how I suspect to join illustration and text together into a design product. So I'm just going to quickly walk you through my own process for combining Illustrator, Photoshop, illustration design together. So here we see my poster that I made in sort of its final form. And then I'll just walk you through my entire process from concept to production. So I actually had made a few concepts for my client, and here you can kind of see the overall progression of the concept. So here are some really rough ones right here, and then here you can also see a little bit more colored in one about generally how I want to approach the poster. And here's the second concept that was sort of selected again. So from there, they agreed on this concept, as I said, and I had created, then from there, I decided to create a refined drawing. So how I did that was I pretty much drew on paper just a bunch of the different tiles of how I was envisioned I would put it together. So in this sense, I just drew everything sort of in the same scale all around, and I looked up references of local fruits and flora, local flora and fauna to draw, and then just sort of put it all in a composition. And I did it for a bunch of different people in sort of critical endangered forested areas as per the theme of the this year's campaign. So here we can see it. Yeah, and they're drawn quite large, probably about 5 inches across, like that. And then I compiled all these into a refined drawing, just like this. And I only did this to send off to the client to give a sense of what the final poster would look like. But even that changed quite a bit. So after I had the approval from here, I then decided to start tracing these individual pencil drawings and then into separate elements so I can move with the intention that I could move them around. So here we can now see my overall file structure. Oh wait, before we get into that one, I'll just show you how I traced each individual one first. So you can see that I would just put in my drawing and pretty much I would just trace over it. And then pretty much use a lot of samples. Some of them I like just trace directly on the photograph. Others I would trace the images directly from the drawing, as you can see right here. And then I did this for everyone. So here you can kind of see how I would often just trace all around there. I keep the line work and then I'd copy it and make it into another color. And again, I would just use a lot of references all around to either draw or directly trace from. So after I did all of these, in this one you can definitely see sort of the amount of small research that I did. Even though when you sort of make it into a vector, it looks a little bit flat and simple, but it takes a bit of time for sure. And then here are just a few other ones, just like that, with all the references and the tracing together, and the tracing that I did on top. All right, so after I had finished all those, I pretty much cut and pasted all these ones into a single file so I could compile the whole poster together. So we'll go back here, and you kind of see right here where I pasted them all in. So I'll turn off this layer, and then you can kind of see how I moved everything. These are all actually individual cutting and pasting. So you can see all the shapes that I just cut and pasted here. And then as I was moving them around, this is when I played around with my guides. So let's turn this off and then turn these on. So after playing around, I had tried many various permutations, but I eventually ended up pretty much using a Van der Graaf Canon kind of style, where I cut the page in half and made 2 diagonals, and then also cut it into diagonals over the entire spread. So pretty much splitting it into 4 columns pretty much, because I divided into halves and then halves again, And I just use the intersections from the diagonals and those to sort of generally place where all the elements would be. My intention was to put all the eyes on the intersections, sort of, or on the lines, horizontal lines created by the intersections, but just because it's quite busy, I had to move things around just to make it a little bit more compositionally balanced. But you can kind of see it really does pretty much follow, all the eye lines kind of follow on the diagonals, and which really helps sort of create a very balanced composition with like 3 on the top, 4 on the bottom, and really fills up the space. From there, after I put it all in, and I also put all the text and everything in there too, I like to sort of make the image a little bit more textured just to give it a little bit of warmth. So what I do, and this is my own personal technique, is that I made another layer of just copied everything and then just put gradients on top of it, which I would then take into Photoshop to make into overlay. So now if I go into Photoshop, we can kind of see how I put it together. So here I decided to make placed in the image, as we can see here. And I would, first I just pasted in the flat colors, and then right on top of it, I pasted in the overlay, but then I broke it up into a different sort of masks, and that's just my technique. But ultimately, it's just like pasting it in to just give it a little bit of lighting in coming from the sides, just to give the color just a tiny bit more depth. And then in Photoshop, I also like to use just so I can edit fine details, such as the levels and color just a tiny bit. And then from there, I also like to just edit the colors here. So then I pretty much save it after I put in all my textures. If you can kind of see, there's a very fine texture of noise, just to give it a little bit of warmth. And then from there, I save it, and then I replace it into Illustrator. So if we click right here, you can see that it's actually, this is just placed in the PSD file, and I just put it right on top, and then I place it in. And then from here, I can just save this as a poster, as a PDF, but I have everything in one file. Yeah, so you can kind of see right here that it's just placed in as a PSD. So it doesn't actually relate to the vector graphics anymore. It's just a placed image. Yeah, and then from there, what you can do, what I had to do is like to make extra collateral and just put different text on it. I just made different artboards and then replace the image in throughout to just change and change the, oops, sorry, and just added like different language variations, just like that. Yeah, so that's pretty much my approach to integrating Illustrator, Photoshop, and graphic design, sort of typography and illustration in my own product. So hopefully you found that helpful. All right, thanks.